Hey everybody, I am here in Acts chapter 13. So this is a chapter that kind of shows a little bit of the rise of Paul the Apostle. I say Paul, not Saul, because this is the chapter where they say, you know, first they call him Saul, and they said also called Paul, and from here on out, nobody ever calls him Saul anymore. I think that it's important to note why, rather, oh my, I don't know exactly why they changed his name from Saul to Paul. Saul is a Hebrew name, and Paul is a Greek name. So I've heard some commentators say that the reason they changed his name is because Saul and Paul are the same name, just in different languages. I looked into it a little bit more, and it looks like the name Paul means small, and the name Saul means ask, or, you know, or to question. So both of them are kind of humble names, which I think is interesting, because Saul, the King Saul, a long time ago, he was very tall. In fact, that's why they made him king, because he was the tallest guy. He was the tallest man in their country, and so they're like, oh, that tall guy, he's going to be king. And so, but it's interesting that you know, Paul gets all of this respect now, and he changes names to a name that means small. And I don't know if that's on purpose in the Bible, that in order to become great, you know, he's becoming small and he's humbling himself, and it's true in this passage. You know, it's kind of showing how he's humbling himself. And in the next chapter, people start worshiping him, and he's like, look, I'm just a man. You know, the Holy Spirit's done a number on Paul. So anyways, it says Barnabas and Paul went to two different places in this chapter. The first one is Cyprus. It's an island that's off the coast of Syria. And so they were in Antioch. It's not far from Antioch at all. And so when they got there was this guy who was a Jew. You know, they always go to the synagogues first. That's something you'll see all throughout the book of Acts. Every time they go to a new city, they go to the synagogues to preach to the Jews first, and then they'll go to the Gentiles. And partially because, you know, the synagogue was a place that they would go to hear teaching. You know, it was essentially a church, and so they just go there because there's already a gathering, and there's a lot of Gentiles that will listen in, because it was pretty widely held in that world that the Jewish God was the real God. So they go to Cyprus first, and there's this council, and we don't know who else was on the council, but we do know that there was a man named Bar Jesus. Bar just means son of. And so it's possible this guy's father was just Jesus, and that was just his name. Like, his name's like, you know, Jackson. And it's possible that he was claiming that he was following Jesus, but it said that he was a false prophet. And when he started teaching the people, he kind of stood up and was, you know, rebuking them for what they were teaching. And then Paul stood up and he gave him a real shutdown. You know, he basically called him the son of the devil, and told him that he was going to become blind, and he just became blind right in front of him. And there was another guy, I forget his name, something Paulus. It said that he saw it and he was very amazed. Now, he was amazed by what they did, but he was also amazed by the teaching. I'm just going to make a point here that nobody believes for one reason. You know, if you ever talk to other people that believe differently, a lot of times they will try to boil your faith down to one thing. Like, you only believe because your parents believe, or you only believe because you went to this place, or you only believe because you had this experience that wasn't real, or you only believe, you know, they like to say you only believe. But nobody only believes for one reason. So that's what happens in Cyprus. And then from there they go to a place that is part of modern day Turkey. There they did something very similar. They went to the Jews first and they started preaching there. And then they said, this is great, you know, we need to hear you teaching about this grace next week as well. And so they came the next week, but it wasn't just the Jews that came, it was the Gentiles that came also. And it showed that the Jews were very jealous of all the Gentiles being there. You know, this was they're talking about their coming Messiah, and all these Gentiles are listening to it as if they get to partake. So they start rejecting the message because it was so inclusive. Just kind of funny, because it's the opposite of what people do today. They kind of reject us because we're too exclusive. But back then, they thought it was too inclusive. So they start rejecting what Paul and Barnabas are saying. And he said, you know, he basically says that this was prophesied in the Old Testament, that this message would be brought to the Gentiles as well. And when the Gentiles heard it, they started cheering and reading the Bible. Like, it must have been, you know, I really want to highlight this, that the Gentiles didn't know that they could partake in it. They were just interested in Jesus and his salvation, and they wanted to hear about it, and they probably wanted to know if they could partake in it. And then he flat out says, you know, this is going to the Gentiles. You know, he's telling the Jews, get over it, this is for the Gentiles as well. And the Gentiles start cheering, and it makes me think, you know, I should cheer that this promise is for me. I should be more happy like the Gentiles there in what's modern day Turkey, and just really accept and rejoice in the fact that I can be saved through Jesus. So after that, it said that they were rejected in that place by the Jews, and so they shook their sandals off and they went to the next place. So it's a pretty wonderful chapter. That is Acts chapter 13. All right, bye.